It is Friday, September 5th, 2025. I'm Heath Lambert, and the biggest story of the week is China hosting world leaders.
India's Prime Minister Modi cozying up to America's biggest adversaries, joining Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping in China.
New comments from Chinese leader Xi Jinping, who took a veiled dig at the U.S. as he promoted his vision of a new global order. Xi told leaders at a major summit, quote, "The house rules of a few countries should not be imposed by others." He said more as well.
Holding hands, Russia's Vladimir Putin and India's Narendra Modi head straight for their host, Chinese President Xi Jinping. They form a huddle with their translators and exchange a few words, even a few laughs. For Xi, the optics are ideal as he seeks to assert himself as a world leader they can count on.
This week, Chinese President Xi Jinping hosted world leaders like Vladimir Putin of Russia and Kim Jong-un of North Korea. The point was to use the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II to highlight what President Xi clearly wants to portray as a new world order. A world order that does not exist under the leadership of the United States, but under the leadership of China. The most noteworthy element of the gathering was the inclusion of Indian Prime Minister Modi. The reason this story is so big is because since the end of the Cold War, India has increasingly been allied with the United States. But stiff tariffs imposed by the Trump administration have begun to place a wedge in the Indo-American relationship. The very public meeting between the leaders of India and China, a country whose interests are increasingly at odds with the United States, is meant to send a signal. For China, that signal is that they are the country in the world to be aligned with for business and security. For India, that signal is that their growing economy can find trading partners outside the United States. Will China prove to be an effective leader of a new global coalition? Will the rift between the United States and India remain permanent? Is India really interested in a relationship with China that would replace its relationship with America, or are these meetings a tactic on the part of the Indian Prime Minister to secure better terms in a new agreement with the United States? All of those questions will be answered in the future with information we do not possess this week. But as these leaders meet, there are important lessons for Christians to learn. The first lesson is about the importance of influence and money. Everyone, whether nations or individuals, wants more influence and more money. And this is not necessarily a bad thing. Influence and money are different words for relationships and resources. Every country and every person needs relationships and resources to function. So it's not wrong to have these things or to try to get them. The issue of moral importance is what we do with them when we have them and, what I want to focus on this week, what we are willing to do to get them. That gets to the second lesson, and that is the truth that conflict reveals character. We find out who we really are when trouble strikes. Right now, the nation of India is facing significant pressure around international trade. The Trump administration is putting the squeeze on them, and it appears that though they may be able to get their tariffs down from where they are at this moment, they will be unlikely to arrange a return to the rates they knew before Trump took office. This pressure is revealing a willingness on the part of the Indian Prime Minister to at least appear to pursue a closer relationship with countries other than the United States. The problem with this is that our relationships are never morally neutral. They always say something significant about our character. I want to be clear that in a sinful world, no individual actor and no international power is a paragon of moral virtue. It is also true that the world of international relations is complex, and what India is signaling this week is not necessarily an indication of where they will end up next month. Nevertheless, it is a problem that the Prime Minister of India believed it would be to his benefit to go to a conference and be photographed with a group of totalitarian dictators. That is true regardless of the signal he wants to send. All Christians can apply this global lesson in very personal terms. All of us need resources and relationships. This week's biggest story is a cautionary tale about the relationships we are willing to enter to attain them. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33 says, "Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals." The company you keep has a corrosive impact on your character, whether you are a high school student, a husband, or the head of a nation. You should take the opportunity of this week's biggest story to look around at your life. If you're surrounded by troublemakers, you are in trouble, and you need to make a change. The Apostle Paul warns us not to be deceived because, sooner or later, we're all tempted to think this rule does not apply to us. As a matter of fact, the only exception to this is found in Jesus Christ. The power of Jesus' righteousness is so powerful and contagious that he is able to take bad influences and turn them for good. He's able to turn his enemies into his friends. Romans chapter 5 verse 10 says, "While we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of his Son. Much more, now that we are reconciled, shall we be saved by his life." This week, the Prime Minister of India is a reminder to all of us to fight against relationships with troubling people regardless of the temptations. And it's a reminder of how much we all need a relationship of faith in Jesus Christ in order to be fully righteous. That is the biggest story of the week. I can't wait to see you next Friday when we examine next week's biggest headline.